This is Rap City Beyond the Basement. What's happening with you big tigs in the building? And from Outkast to Future, Atlanta has impacted hip-hop culture. We've been celebrating the 50th anniversary of hip-hop. These ATL music icons have helped hip-hop continue to thrive. Let's talk about old Atlanta hip-hop versus new Atlanta hip-hop. And who better to talk about this than the experts and the icons themselves? To my immediate right, Shanti Susting Das. Hi, Shanti Das.
Hi, Tigger.
Good to see you. Thank you for pulling up on us.
My pleasure.
Man that needs absolutely no introduction, Mr. Dallas Austin.
What's up, my brother?
What's up, Bob?
I'm good, man.
You good?
Yeah, for sure.
Actually, nobody on this thing needs any introduction. DaBrat, tat, tat, tat. Yeah. How are you, sis?
I'm blessed.
Good to see you.
You too, babe.
And holding down the other end of the table is none other than Mr. So Def himself, Jermaine Dupri. What up, Jay?
What's happening?
So, we're talking new versus old Atlanta. I've kind of seen both. One as a visitor, one as a resident. Individually, and jump in where you feel, have we given enough credit to Atlanta and its impact on hip hop over the last 50, and particularly last 30 years?
No.
Expand.
I mean, I would say the most impact came from even you doing Welcome to Atlanta and getting it started. You know what I'm saying? Like at that time, because obviously we've been known for a long time we wasn't accepted, and first not only be accepted, but then create our own stuff, create everybody had their own shit going on. So I think that really when he did Welcome to Atlanta, that was really when I can say that it was universal enough to brag. Couldn't brag before that, it was kind of getting in there, but by that time it was like, okay, South really got something to say. I think that's when it started for me.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately the biggest problem is that we have treated Atlanta as if it was like, I think we treat all the other cities and states like this, but you have to treat Atlanta differently because of the time frame that we have been putting out music, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't think that the world shifted in that space and understood that the heritage that comes from Atlanta, learn what the heritage is, and then look at the depth of the city as opposed to just like being, because in hip hop right now, Atlanta's looked at, or before the 50s, before we started getting into this year, to me, Atlanta was looked at as a place where only the new artists continue to get notoriety from being from the city. So if somebody else come out, even when you just introduced it, you said Future to this person, right? It always is about the newest artist that's coming out. That's how Atlanta's being portrayed, right? So then you got this big, deep, heavy heritage in this city that feels abandoned, right? That nobody talks about them as if they weren't here, as if they didn't do anything. And I'm not even speaking about myself. I'm talking about the Kilos, the Raheems, the Shadis, the Success and Effect, the people that actually was here beating down the walls of radio, beating down the walls of the club, tearing the strip clubs up, doing everything that I started doing after I saw them doing it. And then, the same, and it just goes on into a journey. So I think that that's first and foremost, that it needs to be addressed that Atlanta as a whole is a new home for hip hop, right? And I think that to me, that's the message that needs to be driven from this point on. If New York, New York started hip hop, right? The West Coast did their thing in between whatever that was, and then the latter parts of the 50 years have existed in Atlanta. And moving forward, this is what we have to address it as. It's here. People that want to discover hip hop, discover the heritage of Atlanta as well as you would do with Africa Bambaataa or Kool Herc or all of these other people.
Yeah,
for different reasons.
Yeah, to Jermaine's point, it just took us so long to earn the respect too, because I was, doing promotions back in the early 90s, and every time we go to some of the other coasts, it was like, oh, we were still this country city, right? Trying to move along. But we had a rich history here of hip hop, like Jermaine said, and when you think of the African Bambaatahs and Kool Hercs, nobody talks about Mojo, right? Or King Edward J, who are like our heroes, who were doing mixtapes, you know, in the late 80s. And they really should be a part of that conversation. I do like the fact that when A3C, which is the hip hop festival that started, it was like, okay, all three coasts. We got East Coast, West Coast, and South Coast. But I still don't think that even though they acknowledged us as the third coast, it didn't catch up with the notoriety.
Brad, like, who do you think is responsible for educating or helping to educate those not knowledgeable about that history?
Well, I think that we all are responsible to educate people. It's just that they don't want to listen. And they you know, they turn a kind of deaf ear, and it's like, okay, we need you to know where it started. We need you to know who laid the bricks, you know what I'm saying, who paved the way for you. A lot of these people that come out, they don't want to hear it. They just think it's all because of them and their talent and their skill, and, you know, no, it's because people paved the way for you before you got here. So it's up to us, but they have to have an open ear to want to listen, to know where it came from. But they'll soon learn when they fizzle out. That's when they want to find out what's going on. And that's when they care, when they flame die.
Dallas, you were going to say something?
I want to say, you know, it's interesting. I had ATL Jacob in here when we first did the museum opening, and he was actually in the theater room, and he was watching the documentary, and he was watching Rico Wade and them talk, and he was watching all this, and he was going, damn. And I was sitting next to him, and I said, see, you know, it's a history to this, right? It just didn't start recently, or it just didn't start because, you know, this is what everybody does around the country. Like, we spent a lot of time, you know, I remember Jermaine and myself, it wasn't an industry here. Like, it just, you know, we had people, Bryson and me, SOS Band and Cameo, but for what we were doing, kind of introducing what was existing in our culture in the streets here, because that's what hip-hop is in the first place, is you're just kind of taking stories from the streets. You're taking slang from the streets, you're taking those words, and you're making songs out of them, and all of a sudden Atlanta had these words that didn't exist everywhere else. You know, there wasn't the same, yo, me, you know what I'm saying, it wasn't the same slang. It was like, yo, Sade. So everybody had to start to come in, even when Goody Mob came in. You remember, they were known as the group that, like, what the fuck are they saying? They represented the South the best. Because nobody understood, and everybody used to come to the South saying, y'all got these code words in the way y'all talk. Yo, Shawty, you spinning the block, what's up, keep some shit? Yeah, and we do, and it always has been that way.
So as people who helped lay the groundwork for what Atlanta is known as and what it is now, do you feel disrespected?
At times, yeah.
I don't know if it's. I mean, we went through different times, because at one point the radio stations wasn't even playing our stuff in Atlanta. They were playing it everywhere else, but here. So like, I don't know if it's disrespected. We had to kind of find a way to educate everybody. To you know, you don't if you can't see it and can't imagine it. Like, everything had to be in LA and New York for us to even go to Philadelphia for us to go see it. But in Atlanta, you could just see Old National Highway, and you can see I can go to Jermaine's house and make some beats. We got some acts. You know, but the dream was being developed by us being like, what else can we do? What are they doing in New York? What are they doing in LA? How can we have our own acts? You know, so whether it was him having Silk Times Leather, or me starting with Joyce Irby and Juggy Fresh, or Another Bad Creation, it was us really just trying to imitate an atmosphere that we loved, but we didn't have here. You know, and so I think we fought for the respect enough to deserve the fact that if your child right now has been born in the last 10 years or 15 years, they think Atlanta is where hip-hop is from, period.
Well, even with all of that, the city has definitely evolved. Atlanta is hip-hop, whether anybody likes it or not.
Like it or not.
How do you feel that Atlanta, given all of what you just said, how do you feel like Atlanta's been able to maintain that identity? Like, it was a minute where, you know, New York, West Coast, Midwest, and then Atlanta was like, mine.
Because I mean, I feel like it was built like slowly. It was built like, for instance, you know, when Coach would come around, he would have Hollywood, right? Coach was in his own version of training back then. Me and JD might have made it already, but it's always been somebody else on the runway that was training off of us, or learned from us, or learned from the mistakes, or whatever we did, or was inspired by what we was doing. And then you have like a person like a Coach K, or you have a person like, you know, Fly from Think It's a Game. You know, who says, okay, I can do that too, because Dallas and JD said that this is how this goes down here. You know, the organized noise. It's like everybody kind of followed the pattern that we had, because we was the first ones to have it. Like, somebody coming from Arista, coming from Columbia to give us $1 million to do something in Atlanta, Georgia when we 20 years old. you know. So it laid out what could be done. We bought studios. We made it possible so other people can be producers and writers and artists. All the shit that we didn't have, it was like, you know what? Let's make it so we have a factory for that, you know. So whether it's me having Tim and Bob or Mario Winans or whoever else, Brian Michael Cox and JD's camp, we set up these camps and we set up these things that like will not only create careers but also like give them the opportunities for them, but create this road that's been laid out for everybody else at this point. You know what I'm saying? This road that's been laid out, it wasn't always here. So when you look at it now, and I'll say, I think the difference now between how we were learning and how the kids now learning, they came in with so much money. Like we got so much money to your ears, you're making show money all night long, and you got money in front of you like that. For us, it was like Deion. Like Deion Sanders, Deion 21, when you go to the club, it was Deion. He the one who had the diamonds around his neck. He the one who had the chains up to here and the Ferraris and he's like, I'm gonna be a rapper, right? But for us, Dominique, Deion, it was the athletes. Everybody else was rapping about being broke. It wasn't like the dope boys and the athletes had everything. So in between that, you had us as music, right? But if you look at Deion, you're like, I really want to be him. He got the wide body Benz. He got the chains up to here. So, you know, I feel Atlanta had this whole swell of
Did
like.
You want the curl?
I mean, at that time, you'd have gave me them chains. I would take the curl too. The curl, the Ferrari. But that, you know, Atlanta's always been a culturally creative place, right? It always will be that. It will always be something where the next thing is going to come out. You're not going to be, in LA, you can go out there and make a record. But here you can come and make something that's culturally significant. Right now, when you have people like Lil Baby, who's still been considered one of the biggest artists in the world, Amigos, 10 albums in, still what QC's done has been incredible. To even elevate something that at one point was just right here on, like, you know, that belonged to the trap. Same thing with T.I. and Jeezy, like in Luda, like in Fast and the Furious movies. All of us been around here forever. Like not knowing who's gonna end up where, not knowing that me and JD was gonna end up here, Luda was gonna end up there, or Lil Jon was gonna end up not only doing promo for him, but becoming one of the biggest artists too. Right. You know, Monica, Ciara, you know, Atlanta's just been one of those places, man, it's a mecca. So many records that come out. I think that now it's just we need the right proper branding and infrastructure. Like if you come to Atlanta, I had this lady come here the other day. She said, man, I'm from LA. And the whole time I've been looking for Atlanta and I can't find it until I came here. So think about that. Like Nashville, you get off the plane, music. Atlanta, we didn't make sure we brand our city now. We got Coca-Cola, we got CNN, we got the aquarium, we got the Civil Rights Museum. We got film because we have music in the first place, right? But the branding for the corporate people to take us serious in our own city is like the only next step we could have. That's when you really get official. Like all around the world, my club in London, Tate, Future, anybody come to perform from Atlanta, it's the biggest shit in the world. It's like they're the Beatles, right? But in our own city, how do we get it to where the branding and everything makes that kind of sense for other people that's coming out of town, and that's the only next step we got to have. I
think people got to address. You got to address hip hop, right? You got to start addressing hip hop in sections, right? And I think the one section that people have always ignored, right? And I took the butt of most of this dirt, right? Is the fact that when I started making records, hip hop was an old man game, right? It was a bunch of old and doing rap, right? That's what it was compared to me. Like I was 13, 14, 15 years old. These was 25 on tour, 30 years old already, right? But the monster of hip hop, I think this is one thing that I never see nobody address. The monster of hip hop started wanting to eat only young material. That was the food for the monster of hip hop. So as hip hop grew into the space that it is, the only food that it was eating was anything that was young, right? And for the longest, these older guys, not anything that was wrong with them, but for the longest, they were fighting that. They could not understand. They didn't want to see hip hop get young, right? So when I brought out Crisscross, he's the first two young rappers to ever be successful in the world of rap,
Right.
nobody that was old was championing this. It's like, oh no, rap ain't for no little kids.
Yeah, I remember that.
You can't take these little kids. And I'm saying Chris Cross was performing at SOBs. They was performing at the Gavin Convention. They was performing everywhere where old was at. And you go to these places, it wasn't no young people. It was all old people watching these two 11 and 12-year-olds, right? So then it was like, oh, this JD, all he want to do is make kitty rap, right? so this is what I'm saying. And the change of hip hop, everybody that was saying that, they're not paying attention that hip hop itself
Started becoming younger.
became younger. And he started, I call hip hop a monster. I say it'll eat you up and it'll spit you out in the way that it wants to eat. That's what happened. It started consuming young food, young entertainment, young activity. And to this day, it's still not addressed. Everybody started addressing it because it became younger artists in the game that still want to act old, right? But even when I did the rap game, it was still Charlemagne and Envy told me, I won't say Envy, Charlemagne specifically was like, don't nobody want to hear no young people rap. He still was in that mindset. He ain't even realized, like, you're sounding like the old because you can't say, you saying that, hip hop hears you, right? You know what I'm saying? It hears you talk like this. Like, oh, you ain't with young shit? Okay, cool. We gonna get your old ass up out of here. That's how hip hop operates. And I feel like that's the thing where, that's where the disrespect of Atlanta comes in, because everybody from Atlanta, the entry was young.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Everybody, even Brat not being from Atlanta, she still was 19 when Funkified came out. Or something around in there. How old are you?
Somewhere, I don't know.
I want to jump in.
You know what I'm saying? So when you talk about Lil Baby, this guy can't be older than 21 when he first came out. He couldn't have been, not far as I'm looking at him. But I'm saying still, regardless, it's all young, right? It's crazy because one day me and Jay-Z was gonna sign 2 Chainz, and we was gonna do like this joint thing. And I called 2 Chainz on the phone from Jay-Z office, and 2 Chainz was like, man, OG, you know, this is a young man game now. And I'm like,
What?
I'm like, who the f you talking to?
Take the boy out.
Legend.
I'm like, wait a minute, Doc, listen, you do realize I'm the person who created the young man space. Like, I'm the one that made it cool for young to rap, right? Like I said, with the rap game, it's a whole TV show about underage kids rapping, right? And at that point, in modern day time, people were still fighting and acting like little kid rap
Wasn't it?
is not a thing, right? It's a thing. It's
Clearly.
a thing. And hip hop is in a younger space. So if you're operating from the mentality of what hip hop used to be in the 80s and the early 90s, you already out. And to me, that's the entry where Atlanta comes in, because everybody from Atlanta, anybody that don't have nothing to do with So Def, Dallas put out Illegal, he put out Another Bad Creation. Everybody that's come out of this city,
Started young.
they starting in their teens, and that's how it survives. So if you ain't paying no attention to that part, you don't understand what happened to hip hop. MC Shan saying we used to do it out in the park. This is what hip hop was for young Atlanta people. You go to the skating rink, there's people skating in there.
We're getting ready to go to the skating rink, listen to Trigger Man, before you even got there.
I feel like another thing, I ain't never say this to you, Dallas, but I feel like we was just trying to make so much money and be so business and go about it in a different way that we missed a lot of things, right? So when I be trying to put people on this stuff, right? I'm gonna ask you, Tigger, do you know in ATL who T.I. is supposed to be?
I have no idea who he's supposed to be.
He's Dallas.
He's you in the movie?
Yeah.
ATL and Drumline was
That's
my
what I'm
2 like movies, but like they happened on that same street. They happened on Old National. Every Sunday I would go skating, and other than that, the marching band was what took me out in Columbus.
Wow.
But the whole ATL movie, even me skating with Tip, teaching them how to skate. Evan Ross, all that was based out of Jelly Beans.
Okay.
The skating rink, me, T-Boz, Divine,
Goes back to
everybody. Like you were young, you went to the skating rink to get your music played. Toomp was DJ in there, so DJ Toomp was the DJ at Jelly Beans, while we all just skating around and Divine and them are dancing, doing their thing. T-Boz dancing, doing their thing. Organized Noise had a room inside the skating rink that they gave him, and that's where they set their first studio up at.
Wow.
So while this is going on, if you look at this culture box, as I call it, you know, we in here skating, going around. We over here, they're over there making records, Divine and them over here dancing, and everybody out of this box ended up being the best out of Atlanta. Divine ended up being the best choreographer, right? Because that's what he was doing. The best developer, everything we did. If I did Another Bad Creation, if I did TLC, if I did Sammy, if I did, Divine did all the choreography. That was his thing. You know, we found our spots. We started to be like, okay, well, who's the best at this or that? K Wells is managing. Everybody was doing their own thing. You know what I'm saying? Me and JG got in like, okay, well, we're gonna have the labels and be the other source for all the stuff that come out of here. But everybody up under us, it's never been a person in Atlanta, Georgia, that did not come through me or him when it came down to whether it was using the studios, whether it was working for us at the label, whether it was like having the first, you know, this or that. We gave so many opportunities, built so many jobs, and that's what started this to be an industry. It wasn't an industry before. It was like, yeah, let's go to Atlanta and get some records. But when you come to Atlanta, you see the home of So Def, Billboard.
Oh, that Billboard.
Yeah, and you like, okay, something lives here as music, right? And then you start getting in, and you couldn't find us. We wasn't like New York. We didn't want to be found. We were like, you know what? We really fuck with each other. We're a community. We on our own shit. Let's stay hidden.
Well,
Let's
from
keep
the
our
outside
shit over
looking
here.
in, that was the one thing I think a lot of people took heed of. We used to say, they all stick together. That was the appearance from outside of Atlanta. They all rode for each other. They all worked together. It wasn't a lot of beef. It wasn't a lot of animosity.
Like a family.
And I think that was one of the things that I helped uplift the what we call classic Atlanta to where, you know, so that you know, it kept the ball rolling, because we were all like, yo, like they all really get down with each other. They make records together, they hang out together and all of that, and that just wasn't common everywhere else.
Yeah, the managers couldn't even keep up with, like, people going by the studio because it was, so I'm gonna go by the studio and do this. I'm gonna go by the studio all day long. They keep going by the studio doing features with people they were with. The managers can't even keep up with it. They'll be like, damn, this is crazy. So it is what it is. So, you know, you have a person like a Jeezy. I'm the vice president of Def Jam at the time, and we're having a meeting. They're like, well, what do you think Jeezy's single should be? I'm like, wait, we're talking about that right here? Are y'all crazy? Really? Because you know what Jeezy's doing right now? He's in Atlanta putting out a mixtape that's going to be sold at every Shell gas station on Northside Drive, because y'all taking too long. You know, and Atlanta don't function like that. Atlanta function like, shit, we don't need no managers. What time you going to the studio? What time you going to the studio?
Right.
They're going to do 12 songs here, 12 songs there. Go by somebody else's studio, do one there. They ain't nobody calling and asking what you going to get paid up front. Ain't nobody.
Studio hopping.
The business part of it went crazy. It wasn't no splits. Wasn't no like, it's like if you was going, was doing it. And it created this whole scene of hip hop that really made hip hop rush up. Atlanta made hip hop like get faster and faster, because the more you gave these kids access to that studio, they wasn't doing one song, they was doing 20. They wasn't doing 20, they was doing 40. And then the mixtapes started to be crazy, like Drama in them mixtapes. The mixtapes got so popular that the label had to come back and be like, you know what? In your plan, let's go back and do a mixtape.
Right.
Because you're gonna need that to be successful,
to it.
right?
Can we give props to Outkast and Dungeon Family
Absolutely.
for what they've done
sure.
for really like putting Atlanta on the map culturally from a hip hop perspective as well? And now they have like the best-selling rap album of all time, which is
13 million
Love
albums.
Like you
Outkast.
can't deny the fact of what they brought together in the community.
Yep. This community built by me, JD, Jazzy Faye, Shanti, Blueface. I mean, everybody built this community, and we protect it. Like that's why we all still cool. That's why we all still show up for everybody's birthdays or whatever you need for us to show up to. We never really got raided with each other, and that's really the Atlanta way of doing music. Like, it's a community way of doing it, and we raised it that way, and it's still that way.
That's what's happening. Listen, we've been having a great conversation. I see some people lurking in the background. You know how we like money.
What's up, baby? Big brother, what's up? How you doing? Tig, what's up, baby? All right.
Jadakiss JaeWon in the building. What's happening? We talking about new Atlanta, old Atlanta music. Being from New York, what was your perception of Atlanta from outside of Atlanta?
I'm a little different. I was down here back in the, you know, I used to be around. I was down here and able to see it formulating actually before it, you know, before it got into the chokehold. But it was still the same kind of unity though. You know, Puff used to have the games against So Def, the So Def Bad Boy weekends, and organized noise. You go over Rico's crib, play ball. It was just, it was a different feeling. Right. I think that's why the music felt different. But it was always love, you know what I mean? They was just serious about bringing a movement, and you know, once they got in the door, they kicked the hinges.
That is a fact.
The hinges was always loose though, because it was always, people act like Atlanta just start getting busy. They've been getting busy.
They've been putting in work like that. But we were talking earlier about how, you know, the hip hop is a young person's game, and I know you in the game now, sir. How do you? When do you take into account?
I don't like that.
He's from Atlanta, by the way, too. I'm gonna make sure you gonna say you gonna claim him.
And I don't like it because that's what it is. It's just, you know, this is the only genre of music that we make territorial, that we break down into East Coast and West Coast. Is a whole bunch of little umbrellas under the original umbrella of this culture.
Right.
And they don't do that to no other genres of music. There's no East Coast country, West Coast pop, or, you know what I mean? Right. Or, you know, so just got to be mindful of that, because when they put us against each other, it's denser. The strength is in the numbers, so. You know what I mean? But you're right, it is a young person's game.
Yeah, and he's beginning his journey with an iconic history behind him, but as pointed out, from Atlanta. What is that like in reality for you as you start your journey?
As it being a young person game?
Well, I mean, just the whole...
Just being from the, you know, you damn near from Atlanta.
I think it's just a different culture. Atlanta got a different culture to it. It's way different from New York, but it's embracive. It's a lot of like history here. It's a lot of stuff that go into it. Same for New York. So I think it's all just a matter of social media do a big job in bridging the gap. So we could see what it's like down here. They could see what it's like up there. So it's a matter of bridging it. And you see it with how everybody dress, everybody using the same beats and sounds and stuff. So I think that's all it is.
Brat, I mean, you're from Atlanta at this point. I know you're from Chicago. What was the transition like for you? Like, again, he mentioned going up and down on national, so you got the authentic Atlanta experience.
I grew up in church, so I couldn't even cuss till I came down here with JD. You know what I'm saying? So like,
you was cursing before you came. Don't do that.
No, I was cussing, but I couldn't cuss out loud.
Okay.
Yeah, right. The transition for me, I think everybody that get around JD turn into JD. Like everybody, he's got this personality of this. No, for real. Even Shanti used to be like, oh my God, you are like a girl JD. She used to just look at me like I was crazy because I absorbed whatever it is he has, that thing. It's so like magnetic that you damn near turn into JD. Like I used to start he chew his tongue all the time. When he worked and stuff, he just looked, and I used to catch myself, my tongue used to be sore because I started chewing my tongue. I'm like, what? Yeah, but you really, so I think the person that you have yourself around, like he was my mentor. Like I looked up to him, he discovered me, so he believed in me, so I wanted to be everything JD. So everything he taught me, I wanted to absorb it and just learn it so I could be the best I could be. So I feel like that's what my transition was. I was still Brat because whatever he saw in me, like I was the tomboy, I grew up in church, like I had a huge heart. I used to want to be real bad. I used to be bad, but on the low. JD brought the bad out on the records. So I got to be my ghetto hood ass self and shoot up on my records. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that's the Chicago. Yeah, the Chicago in me. It was in me, and I got to do it sneakily. But when I came here, I got to put it on the records and really talk about how I was in Chicago. So, you know, I don't know if I answered your question, but I just know everything that JD does. We all, even Usher, we all turned into JD. Like whether you're a girl or a boy, you gonna turn into JD because you want to be great like that. Like I used to sit and watch him make beats and stuff, and I begged him for a beat machine. I was, please give me one. I want to make beats. I want to do everything JD do. So he eventually got me a beat machine. But the thing about him, he didn't show me how to work it. I said, okay, I got this beat machine. Show me what to do. He's like, nah, I ain't doing that. I'm like, well, how I'm going to learn how to do it? I had to sit and be at the studio and just pay attention. So that's one thing that I learned. He ain't going to teach it to you. You got to pay attention.
Did she learn?
That's fire.
Oh no! I mean, she already had Brat played drums in the church. Don't let her like she just went to church. She was up there in the band playing the drums. And all. She's a very musical person, so she had all of this stuff in her already. That's what I'm saying. Like, you know, you as a entrepreneur or CEO, whatever it is, you gotta crack the code of the people that's around you, right? Like Brat saying that I brought out the ghetto in her. That shit was just reserved when she was around me.
It was in there.
Right.
As soon as we went to Chicago, it was a little smaller than me running up to the car like, dog, listen, you in our hood, we got you. And this man strap in his hand, this where Brat live at, the west side of Chicago. Like, once I went to where Brat was at, me as a visionary about her project, it just opened me completely wide. Like, oh, this is what we need to be talking about. Like, Brat being on Old National Highway and being in Atlanta, this ain't Atlanta. This ain't my house. You know what I mean? Like, all that gang shit that's in Chicago, Brat is part of this shit. I'm just saying, I'm not trying to, you know. But I'm just saying, I want people to understand that's where she come from. She's just here in Atlanta, but where she come from is where she come from. And you, like I said, you gotta get out of your own little comfort zone to start realizing what's happening with other people if you're gonna if you want to open them up into hip hop. Because that's what hip hop, that's the food of hip hop. The food of hip hop wants to know where you from, what you doing, what street y'all on, what you was doing before you was rapping, what you doing while you rapping. All of this shit is like the food, right? And that's what I'm saying. I feel like we was doing all that shit here in Atlanta.
And I think that's what put us on the map also, is just like, you know, another story to hear, you know, another different story to hear, whether it's from a kid's standpoint, whether it's from a girl's standpoint, whether it's from a TLC standpoint. We found our thing. We found like, okay, we can incorporate other, you know, the music or the samples, whatever else, but then I think what me and JD embarked on in Atlanta, maybe we had the time to on the whatever it was, but we turned into songwriters, and the songwriter part of it is what they didn't know that we were doing, whether it was TLC or Mariah Carey, like write the songs out before they get there, have somebody else sing them, so when they get there, the songs are done, boom, right? So we was doing that for the longest, like, and whether it was rap music or whether it was illegal, whether it was another bad creation, we still had like New York at that point for us, like it was like that. Like when you plug up the cord to it, you know what I'm saying? Because I was up in Giant Steps, I was up in like everything in New York, because when I first did Rowdy with LA, he was like, well, let's do the label in New York. I'm like, why would I do that when I'm in Atlanta? I don't want to do that, you know what I'm saying? Because when you're in Atlanta, you were so Atlanta. I'm talking about we were so Atlanta. That's why they call us country, because I don't think I even went out of the country until I was 27. When Lenny Kravitz told me one day, nigga, you country as f***, you ain't left out of here. Like, no, what is it out there? And until you started to go out and see other stuff and to bring it back here, and I'm like, oh, okay. Right. That's how we can have all these different artists coming here. That's how we can bring people, like the artists we're working with, whether it's Madonna, whether it's Mariah, biggest artists in the world, they wanted to come here. Because they felt like it was something down here that we was getting from down here that they wasn't gonna get nowhere else. And for real it is. It was a certain ignorance. It was a certain bubble over Atlanta. Like if you was Atlanta, you was full Atlanta. And like, you know, the songs you were translating on different people, you know, if you listen to the rhythm flow on Mariah's songs, ballads, they're like his rap flows. Right. So it's just that one thing, man. I think that we got to hold to our own shit finally, and we got to hold to our own shit, and then we started embracing it. And the more we started embracing it, everybody else started wanting it.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
So as we sit in this amazing historical exhibit that y'all put together and curated to showcase the impact of Atlanta hip hop over the past 50 years as we celebrate the 50th year of hip hop, and I'm gonna start with you, Kiss. Where do you feel the next 50 years is headed for hip hop, and what role does Atlanta have to play in that?
I think the next 50, we could ease up or make our journey to the next 50 with more originality, more authenticity, having more respect for the culture. You know, sometimes they give some of the younger people, some of the older people, when you get to a certain financial status in your life, you stop really wanting the same intel and doing the same homework that you did when you didn't have a nickel. You know what I mean? And that kind of messes things up. But I think if we tighten a couple of the screws, you know, keep evolving, because everything in the world involves hip hop, you know what I mean, involves this culture, we could get another 50. I mean, we definitely gotta do some furniture moving and some trimming up of the, you know what I mean? Yeah, some refurbishing.
Jay, because you're gonna be a part of this wave in the next 50, sir.
I think honestly we just gotta separate the rap business from the hip hop culture. Like that's a big thing right now with it. It's more rap culture. I mean rap business. Like everything is business geared versus culture. Like he was just saying, Dallas was saying, Atlanta has a culture to it that you don't understand. Like I happen to be able to learn it and understand it from staying out here, going up to the studio. I spent weeks up there with JD and I'm like, you get what I'm saying? Like that, like versus like even New York got its own culture, LA got its own culture, but the way the industry is now, even just from watching as a fan, you see it's more about the business. How can we make it a money thing? Like they don't no longer, you got artists in New York, Chicago, Atlanta, LA that all look alike. It's no longer like, this is what this looks like over here, let's amplify it. It changes, it takes what it takes what it has and it just puts it in a one big pot of gumbo versus like, say if I come to the studio out here to make like a party song is fun, it's easier because of the culture of Atlanta. Right. Versus you in New York, it's more like, New York is rough, like, so you gotta like, it's almost forced, like, you get what I'm saying? Like, it's almost a forced feeling, so I think you just gotta separate the business of rap from the culture of hip hop and what hip hop is. It is the clothing, it is the way we talk, the way we act, how we party and stuff like that.
Right. Hip hop professional?
Yes, so I would just say, you know, given the rich history of Atlanta, right? Civil rights movement, what that meant. In my generation, like, we learned from our elders. We might not always agree with them, right? But we learned from our elders and people that came before us. So one of y'all, you, JD or Dallas, talked about bridging the gap. I think it's really incumbent upon, you know, the people that were here in the 80s and the 90s who laid the foundation. We need to get with the new and upcoming artists. And we need to respect one another, and we need to build and grow together.
It got to be a two-way street, 100%. Though. You know, they
got
they got to want the game also.
Yeah. I agree, but we got to put it out there. You know, you got to at least try, because there's something to be said from learning. And I know technology has changed the game. Things are differently, how you record, how you put music out, streaming, but still understanding the culture, to your point, and the art and the history of Atlanta and where we need to go. I think that's really important, right? And then the last thing I'll say is, again, going back to the economic empowerment perspective and what the Atlanta hip hop industry has given, right, to this community. We need to bring in corporate so that they can build out. So Atlanta is known, when you get off the airplane, you know, you see the Atlanta music scene, or there's, you know, buildings or areas or streets dedicated to bars, clubs, restaurants, museums. Like this museum that I helped curate with Dallas and JD, it's got to live here. But this is a pop-up. It's a pop-up. This has got to stay. The history, it's got to stay, and it's got to be shown.
I think for you, you know, it's interesting that Kiss is here, because I feel like Kiss, well, let me ask you, when you started rapping over like down south beats, what was the mindset? Because you did it first.
I don't know if you told me, somebody told me, I don't know if somebody said, yo, you need to start rhyming on them joints. And
yeah, because you like, you know, you top 5 dead or alive lyrical rappers, right? Absolutely. Out of New York. that's in a lyrical space that don't pick them type of beats, right? Nas don't pick them type of beats, and Hov very seldom pick them type of beats, right? You start rapping over beats that was just 808 driven, like Big Cap and Lil Jon, and you know what I mean, just straight 808 beats. And I feel like you was the gateway for young New Yorkers to start realizing, like, shit, this ain't the 80s, dog. This ain't the 90s.
That's a fact.
Kiss done went over here. We got to get over here, right? Because that's when I feel like that's when New York, all the young rappers in New York, they start paying attention to more like them type of beats as opposed to just like, you know what I mean, like A$AP Rocky and all of them. They start paying attention to that type of that down south Harlem type of mixture. But I've been heard you was the first person that I heard.
Yeah, you too smart for human beings. Like Dallas said though, how he didn't go out the country till he was like 27. I think a lot of the dudes now is stuck in the bubble of where they is so lit and so much spinning and popping and going. They just stuck where they at. Yeah, and you don't get to see it. I'm down here moving around. I'm in all of these clubs and everywhere. I'm hearing all of these music. I'm like, I don't want to just keep going to all these parties and not hear. I got rhyme on some of these. Yeah, that's how I'm in here myself down here. You know what I mean, Lil Jon? Let me get on there.
Yeah, but what's crazy is we were like that in New York. We were like the same way in New York. Like every break beat, every giant step, every like DJ Premier, every like record Pete Rock did, every The Bomb Squad. Like for us, that was like, you know, the most exciting element of hip hop, period. And so like for us to be able to incorporate that, even the Goody Mob, you know, and Rico and them going, you know what? Now this shit ain't gonna sound like bass music. We're gonna make this shit sound like Wu-Tang, right? So when you start to incorporate the gumbo is the most magic shit you could ever happen, all right? 50 Cent, what was he from? We didn't know where he was from when he first came out. We was like, this from the South, the West, New York. When you ever find me in the club, you're like, this mouth sound a little funny. Like, where the fuck is he from? He's from Atlanta. He's talking like Atlanta Pimp. So, like, when you started, like, when the gumbo started to go together, which was the same thing that started happening with me and JD. When I started to make records that sounded like, okay, I was involved in New York hip hop in my shit. I was taking a bunch of samples. I was doing like with this Y'all So Stupid, or what I was doing like even TLC. I was just taking everything that the Bomb Squad was doing. I was like a Hank Shockley fanatic. I wanted to work in Green Street because of that. I wanted to go to New York. I didn't want to go here, right? But now it's changed to us being that way. Like people want to come to Atlanta and they want to work at Patchwork. They want to work where people don't work that before. They want to be in the element. They can feel the energy when they get here. Yeah. And it's fine for them to transfer. Every few years, every amount of years, something's going to transfer somewhere else. Like even when he started doing DaBrat and he started doing Bow Wow, LA was heavy. So he's like, well, shit, well, I'm gonna have me some of that too. So he was incorporating that music. Yeah, like you listen to Funkified, that was the same thing that was happening on the West Coast, but brought down here in the South. You know what I'm saying? Jermaine was like, wait, let's take that gumbo they got and bring it here. Any record you bring, and I tell all this to the youngsters right now, right? If you bring a record to Atlanta that sounds different as I don't care if it's I'm a piano, Afro beat, whatever it is, and you put Atlanta on it, that shit gonna sound crazy and new. Because what he gonna say and what he gonna talk about, especially if you're young, going back to the youngsters, what they gonna talk about is some shit you gonna be like, what the f are they talking about? Now it's got this unique beat to it, and now it's something fresh. Now it's Bubba Sparks being ugly or whatever the f it is. But it's something that sounds different than what's happening here all the time.
Yeah, we embrace ghetto in this city.
Oh yeah, we love the ghetto is it.
Flat out, a little bit.
But it's not ghetto.
We really embrace ghetto. Like if you ghetto in Atlanta, you damn near gonna be the #1 artist in the world. The more ghetto you is in this city, the more pop. I swear to you, right? I'm gonna tell you, because he just said that and it just made me think about it. Didn't Sean Garrett told Lil Jon when he made he was like, man, we wanna make some ghetto Michael Jackson shit. And that's what Usher is. It's like if Michael Jackson came to Atlanta, like he said, if Michael Jackson would have came to Atlanta and worked with me or Dallas, that's what would have happened. He would have been on some 808, and Michael Jackson would have been in a whole nother space. That's what happened with Mariah. I went in the studio with Mariah Carey, I put 808s on her records. And then it's like, oh, you saved Mariah Carey's life. I'm like, damn, no, I didn't. She was already doing what she's doing. I just made Mariah a little ghetto.
Little that gumbo, that Dallas we talking about.
It was the same reason
I started riding
When
around in the car with Brat and shit. You know what I mean?
it was the same thing when I did Michael Jackson and Biggie, right? So I go to this session.
Oh, wow.
Like I hit Puff. It's like, well, work with Michael. He wants something harder. He wants something cool. Can I get Big to come out here? He's like, shit, you kidding me? Boom, on the plane. So when he goes in and does the rap, because I was thinking first stretch. I was like, we need to be somebody. It's Michael. He wants somebody in hip hop. Can't be Big. Maybe somebody like, you know, more commercial friendly. He's like, no, I want it hard. I want it hard. Big comes in. Me and him sitting out in the car. He's rapping the rap to me. Listen, motherfucker, I got bust the phone. Motherfuckers chasing me. Ain't making a profit seed. I'm a killer. I ain't joking. Indo smoke got me. I was like, oh shit. I don't know. That shit might not work for Michael Jackson. We go in the studio. Let's just play it for him. See what he says. Plays it. Michael. Go. Oh my God, this is wonderful. This is exactly what I wanted.
Whoa,
so
shit.
now you got the South. You got him. You got Michael. You got us come together on the record.
Gumbo.
And I think that's what the gumbo's about. You know what I'm saying? When you put
listen.
that gumbo together, that's what it is.
I told you this many times. I've never told you this. I'll talk to you all the time. One of my favorite records. What's my record I always tell you about?
Hating Your Blood.
Hating Your Blood.
I'm gonna tell you. So I was gonna speak on that too. I was gonna say this now. Hating Your Blood to me is me making records based on sound, because kids got a distinctive voice.
Facts.
That if you think you
I
gonna
always
use
thought
Kiss,
if you put that together, thinking of Free's voice in my book. Go ahead. No.
so I'm just saying, like, so when I'm making this record, I'm in my head. I'm just in my head. I hear the sound. I hear these different places, because I done did I did the hook part, and I'm thinking about, I ain't gonna sound right on the hook. I'm thinking I should get somebody that's gonna sound right on the hook, and I ain't even realized that these was beefing when I put the together in the song, right? So Kiss,
How powerful it is, though. Yeah,
Kiss
go
and
ahead.
Freeway, they in a full-on beef, like rap beef, and I haven't got these two on the song together, and like I said, I was just literally just trying to make a song based on what I heard in my head. I wasn't even trying to I wasn't trying to do no slick shit and put y'all in no kind of position or nothing. I just was like, I'm trying to.
It ain't even that. I thought, without speaking to Free, he had to think the same thing I thought. If JD, screw all that other shit. If JD calls, if he hear us on this, we can get back to that later. We gotta do this shit. If he spoke to Free and said, I don't know if he said I'm gonna put Kiss on it,
Right.
but he told me I'm like, I'm cool. The song is knocking. I didn't do my shit. I wasn't even thinking like that. I know when you send something, if you hear something, you better get that done.
I ain't know nothing about it. I didn't really realize it till I asked Freeway to do the hook, and Kiss verse came, and Freeway was like, where I get the rap? And I was like, I ain't really want you to rap on the song. I just want you to do the hook.
Yeah.
And I could tell his body language was like, this, you know what I mean? And that's when I really like, damn, these is beefing. I should let this have a verse. But in my head was just like, I hear a song. I just know what I wanted the song to sound like.
I'm happy you heard that song. So we're talking ATL's influence. All of this wonderful people here. The world put on notice. They done gave Usher a Super Bowl.
Yes.
Which is amazing.
Yes.
As we sit back and just say, damn, all these people he could bring out, whether he chooses, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yes.
It's just amazing. Is that a testament to the power and influence of Atlanta in its music?
I think what's going to be shown, he can tell you the
I think
big part
that's
of it, but I
artistry.
think what's going to be shown and what he's going to display, like even if you look at the shows he's doing in Vegas, he's got the skaters, he got Atlanta. One thing about Usher, he ain't really letting go of Atlanta in his shows. So like, I don't know I know Jermaine's going to be involved in it to that capacity too, but it's definitely going to be. He has to. He's already. It just is what it is. You know what I'm saying? You know what it is. It just is what it is. Like to get the show to be the right show need to be, he couldn't do it without his involvement in the first place. So like, just the setup of what it is, it's going to represent Atlanta.
It is.
That's for sure. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the it's interesting for me because I just look at it like I was telling him this the other day. Like, it's just time. It don't have nothing to do with. I mean, he's talented. He is who he is. But at the end of the day, it's like, who else? You know what I mean? It ain't even about. We should be surprised, I guess, from a little standpoint of it. But I'm not surprised. 'Cause I'm like, who else? Who else is it? You know what I mean? He skates, he sings, he raps, he dances. He's in Vegas. You know what I mean? It don't make really no sense to be talking about nobody else. If you and by the way, I feel like that about Atlanta, myself and Usher. And I was telling Dallas and Shanti before we got here what I did on my birthday. I went on this journey, and in that journey that I went on, the journey told me that it's, you know, if anybody starts to maneuver in a way that they don't want to give you your flowers or talk about Atlanta or deal with what's happening in modern day right now, they just automatically a hater because you don't have no reason to overlook us. You don't have no reason to say somebody else's name. Right. You don't have, it's no reason for you to do it, right? If you start doing that, you just don't want it. You got hate in your blood. That's just what it is. Flat out. I'm saying for real. Like you have, it's like if you have a conversation. Come on, man. I'm telling you, if you have a conversation about rap, right? Right. And you leave Kiss off, you are out of your mind, right? But that's in hip hop, they know this, right? Right. Atlanta's been a space where people have tried this. They had this hate where they didn't want to actually get to that space, right? So they say this to me all the time, JD, I don't think you get your flowers. Cool. I might then get my flowers when you thought I should. But in this day and time right now, if you don't do it now, you just hating. Cause I don't give you no reason to avoid me. You know what I'm saying? If you avoid me or Atlanta at this point in time, you are just in a space that you don't want to see life as it is. And that's how I'm saying about Usher, right? It's the same thing. Like, I looked at the three other people that's possible, right? You could take Drake, right? You could pick, you could have picked Chris Brown, right? It's three other people that's out there that could do that. But they also not already there. He's already there. Yeah. He's already there, and he's already doing what the Super Bowl needs for the Super Bowl
every weekend.
You know what I'm saying? So it automatically becomes a thing like who else, right? And yes, Usher's gonna do what Atlanta does.
That's right.
Ghetto that motherfucker.
and if I could just add, like, I was at LaFace when we signed Usher. Right. He was 14. You know, he was born in Chattanooga, but he was raised in Atlanta. Right. And to JD's point, like, everything about Usher is Atlanta. Facts. And so, yes, it's time for him because he has put in the work. And the one thing I will say, he was signed to LaFace Records. So let's not forget the groundwork that LaFace put in from a record company perspective. Like, LA and Babyface, like, our artists got in rehearsals. They did artist development. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? We did interview coaching. Like, we did what we had to. We literally, to your point, moved Usher to New York for 6 months to live with Puff to soak up the culture. But going back to Atlanta, like, I've never seen anybody work harder than that kid. And now, as a grown man, like, I love the fact that he's incorporating skating. That's all Jelly Beans. Like, he recreated Jelly Beans literally at a party in LA earlier this year. So, like, everything, yes, it's going to be immersed in Atlanta culture because Usher is Atlanta. Yeah. But let's not forget the blueprint that was laid out with LaFace Records and what we did for our artists. And Usher is a master, just like JD and just like Dallas. Like, whatever they put their heads to, they're going to master it. And he mastered the way that we were doing it here. And he became a fabric of the culture of the city. And he deserves all the flowers he's getting.
We're all looking forward to it, and ATL will be representing. Jadakiss, thank you, sir.
Thanks for having me.
JaeWon, thank you. The professional, Shanti Dawes, Dallas, Brad. Hey, Ma.
Hi.
JD.
Yeah.
Appreciate you. Listen, this has been another edition of Rap City Beyond the Basement. Pull up on us for the next one. You heard?